Good evening, everybody. My name is Angel Rivera, as you know, and I'm a host of Angel in the Afternoon or Evening. I have to change the name of the show. Well, anyways, today I have a guest, second week in a row, and her name is Karyn, but you might know her as Sage501 on Twitter. So here she is, and we'll get started. If I, hey,
Hi, Angel. Thank you for having me. Like I said to you off camera, I'm really flattered that you wanted to just talk to a mouthy little nobody who's not a podcaster, not a Substacker, not in anything except a loudmouth on Twitter. So this should be fun. I'm
yeah,
really excited to officially meet you.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet you too. I was like, yeah, let me see if she'll come on, like I said to you off camera, because I was like, we'll see she says no, because I think I'm not sure if you, I'm not sure if you've been on somebody else's show before, but I was like, yeah, let me see if she will do it. So I was like, oh yeah, she did it, great. So yeah, here we are today, and so very simply, we're gonna start off with there's a couple of breaking news that I thought we should quickly get through and then
Okay.
get your thoughts on it. And then we'll go to the debates between Gavin Newsom and DeSantis. And
Mm.
then we'll go to, other things. We'll see where that goes. But for now, that's my plan, basically. So we'll get
Well,
started with George Santos. If you heard, he got kicked out of Congress today. So,
I just heard that like an hour ago because with the 24-hour news cycle, like if you blink, you're gonna miss a story. So
yeah.
I'm not up on this at all. So I'm kind of gonna learn this in real time with
Oh,
you
okay.
right now.
Okay. Let me, hold on. So let me do that. So yeah, that's an MSNBC clip. He actually got kicked out of Congress. He was expelled. The official term. The official term is called being expelled. Only five congressmen ever been expelled since the beginning of the first Congress.
Okay.
So let me just do this. Oops. House votes to expel GOP Rep George Santos. He has left the Capitol for the last time. So let's go to here. So bear with me. All right, here we go. Oops. Be nice if I unmuted it. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Two-thirds voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted, and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The clerk will notify the governor of the state of New York of the action of the House. Under Clause 5D of Rule 20, the chair announces to the House that in light of the expulsion of the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, the whole number of the House is now 434.
And watch them start clapping at the end like they accomplished something important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so it seems as though with those few words, Congressman George Santos has been expelled. He is no longer a member of Congress.
So I have a question. So
Yeah.
does this now mean that the Democrats just get that seat?
I'm pretty sure how it works is when he said he has to inform the governor of New York, there's going to be she'll be able to appoint a congressperson, and then there'll be a special election at some point to actually replace him.
I just,
Wh-
it's just interesting to me that you know I I have I have no faith or respect for either party here.
Yeah.
I think the Republicans are pretty just impotent and kind of feckless because like the Democrats, they're able to kind of just, if not bully their way and get their will, or have a meltdown on the floor of the House. Like Jamal Bowman, like he's still there. He's still there. Like nothing happened to him, and he basically did essentially the same thing that they accused the January 6th people of doing. he's still there. It just seems like that party they just get their way, or the Republicans are like, well, we don't want to make anybody mad. I don't know. People may be mad at us if we do something. We
Yeah,
don't want to be bullies.
yeah. The thing of that, though, I mean, that's even look. Yes, Santos lied about everything he did,
Oh,
everything.
I'm not
Even
defending him.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying he lied about everything. I'm not even sure that's his real name, honestly. I'm kind of confused about what his real name even is. Somehow he got elected to Congress, so that shows how he's a pretty good politician, even though nobody knows anything about him, what's real, what's fake. But with Jamal Bowman, I mean, by the logic of expelling Santos, he should be expelled too. It's like, oh yeah, he pulled the fire alarm and then denied it.
well,
That's like the worst part.
right, denied it, and then on video you can see that no, he actually there's video evidence, and he's like, no, it wasn't. First, it didn't happen. Then it was an
Hmm.
accident. I don't know what a fire alarm is. I thought it would open the door.
That's ridiculous.
And
I
he
can't
was
believe
a school
anybody.
principal. Like,
I can't. Yeah, I can't believe anybody fell for that. And then I see these online political commentators that are on the left defending this. They were like, "Well, the signs were confusing, guys. So yeah, obviously a former middle school principal will be confused by them, right? I mean, come on, let's like the one I'm thinking of is Kyle Kalinske. Like he just
oh well, yeah.
he was ridiculous. I
Uh,
saw his video. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? It's not confusing. I read those signs. Like, yeah, that's a fire alarm, and this is the door.
how
Clicking the
about
fire
we
alarm is not
don't?
open the door.
How about we don't have anyone
Mm.
in Congress in either party who is confused by fire alarms? Like maybe the litmus test should be like, can we hand them like a picture book or something and be
Yeah.
like, we're just gonna need like a bit. I mean, but again, these are now a lot of the same people who pretend to not know what a woman is. So I guess we shouldn't be that surprised. He's like, I don't know what a fire alarm is either.
Oh yeah, I mean that's true.
Very
I mean,
complicated.
they're like, I'm defending. When they especially Kyle Kalinske and the Young Turks, they started Justice Democrats, so they were like,
Mm,
we'll do whatever it takes to defend Bowman. Okay, let's just say the signs were confusing. Like he's a former middle school teacher. I'm sure he had students pull the fire alarm before a big test. I'm sure he knows. I mean, that was one of the most ridiculous things I ever heard. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Now he's saying I'm cooperating in the investigation. Whatever punishment that comes to me, I'll accept. But he won't be expelled. He'll probably get a fine or something like that. So
yeah,
it's so
just a little
because
time
he's a
of his
good
life. Well,
he's in
they'll
the
give him
club.
a timeout. They'll just give him a timeout. You're
Yeah.
a naughty boy.
Hmm. So now let's move on from that because to me that's kind of low level stuff. But yeah, let's get to Henry Kissinger. He passed away last night.
Yeah,
Do you celebrate it?
I it's funny. I don't know if I'm one of those like super celebrate like whether the person is good or bad or whatever. I'm no fan of Kissinger's an enemy to the people. Like
Yeah.
that's basically the gist. I have nothing nice to say. Um, I had like my one snarky Twitter comment, and I kind of left it at that. I think I don't know. I think what was interesting, I get why people want to celebrate that kind of thing because they feel like it's some kind of win. Although, like, the man lived to 100 and died of old age. Like, I'm not really sure what the victory is here, really, other than the fact
No.
that he's not here anymore. Like, I get it. But most people do not live to 100. Like, the man did well.
Mm,
Um, but
no.
I think what was interesting to me um, is that a lot of the people who were extremely elated by this um, also are, you know, very fond of people who might cloak their imperialism and their warmongering in something more palatable, but like they're not better. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it just feels like, okay, you're going to condemn this, but insert some, progressive dem or something. And it's like, well, oh, you like them, or you think like, well, at least they have like a moral. I'm not sure about that. I think the a lot of the times the kindness, the veneer of the human rights endeavor or whatever, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of anti-human stuff that lives under the veneer of a human rights campaign a lot of the time. So I just think it's kind of interesting that you can get a lot of people who will perhaps rightfully, right, sure, celebrate a death like Kissinger, but then it feels sort of hypocritical because you sort of then you're backing people that's like, these people aren't better, they just appear to have
Yeah.
a veneer of a morality that you find much more relatable, whereas Kissinger seemed like he was not ideologically based. You hear the word realism with him thrown
Yeah.
around. And in a certain sense, is that not just more honest? I think the veneer, the kindness veneer, makes people feel a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But what's
Well,
the functional difference?
well, I mean, yeah, I didn't really like celebrate it, but at the same time, it was like, I really didn't feel too bad about it. It's like,
Oh, I didn't feel
fuck
bad
'em.
about it at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. So I'm going to play a 2 minute about his legacy. So the legacy of Henry Kissinger. So let's everything, all the evil shit he's done. So it's only
Oh,
2 minutes. So let's go.
okay.
Henry Kissinger is somehow still alive, and in his lifetime, he's been
Well, I mean,
responsible
he passed away, but this video is before, so just wanted to clear that up.
for some of the worst atrocities in the history of the world. As he turns 100 on Saturday, we
There you
wanted
go.
to recap just a few of the war crimes that stand as his true legacy. Under Nixon, Kissinger oversaw the massacre of millions in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos from 1969 to 1973. He was the mastermind behind the carpet bombing of Cambodia, which deliberately targeted civilians, personally approving all
It sounds familiar. Purposely targeting civilians, like that's what Israel's doing right now. So
3,875 bombing raids in Cambodia. And to this day, Laos remains the most bombed country in world history. In Chile, Kissinger played a key role in orchestrating the US-backed 1973 coup that toppled the socialist government of Salvador Allende and installed the fascist Augusto Pinochet. Pinochet's brutal regime murdered thousands and subjected tens of thousands more to torture during his 16-year reign. Kissinger aided the Pakistani dictator Yahya Khan against Bangladesh's liberation war of 1971, enabling the mass slaughter of an estimated 300,000 to 3 million people. Kissinger authorized and armed Suharto, the Indonesian dictator, in his genocidal invasion of East Timor in 1975. This campaign led to the death of over 200,000 Timorese through massacres and forced starvation. In 1976, Kissinger gave his pre-approval to Argentina's right-wing military junta for their dirty war against leftists,
Jesus
resulting
Christ.
in the brutal murder, torture, and disappearance of over 30,000 people. This is only a glimpse into the extensive list of Kissinger's crimes,
and that's just some of what he's done. There's so much more, but
and new things are still being revealed every year. While Kissinger continues to be honored and held in high regard by the mainstream political establishment, it's clear that he should rightfully be remembered as one of the biggest mass murderers in history.
nah. All right.
Well,
So yeah, there you go.
clearly he'll be missed, right? I mean,
He'll be
wow.
missed by Washington. Hey, Desert. Do me a favor. You're in the chat. Please give me a like, and please subscribe. Hello, Gamer. Hello, Desert. Warren. Appreciate you all being here with me. And yeah, so he's responsible for millions and millions of deaths. I mean, I didn't even know about I knew about Chile. I knew about Vietnam. I knew about, but I didn't know about the other ones, you know. And there's so much more that I'm sure I don't even know everything, and nobody really does.
He's got a lot of blood on his hands, no
Yeah,
question.
no doubt. Right? I'm like, I can't. I mean, he's like beloved in Washington. I mean, it's I've never like it's so like
Didn't
painfully
he
obvious.
get did he get the Nobel Peace Prize? Am I crazy?
Um, I think he might have.
I
I
don't know
mean,
if
let
I'm
me.
off on that. I think he did.
Uh, Henry Alfred Kissinger. Blah, blah, blah. Actually, he changed his name because he's German. He's German by so he has some other name. I forget right now what it was, but let me see. I'm pretty sure he did. Oops. Along with Thao, Kissinger was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in December 10th,
Yeah.
1973, for their work in negotiated ceasefires contained in the Paris Peace Accords, ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam. So,
Mm,
ironically, he got the Nobel Peace Prize for peace in Vietnam, even though he's the one that caused a lot of that death and destruction initially. It's similar to Obama. You remember he got the Nobel Peace Prize when he was elected.
yeah.
And what did he do? He broke records in bombings around in Middle East. So
Mm-hmm.
look who showed up. The ghost of Henry Kissinger.
No, there he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, he showed up here in the stream. It's like they love me. So there you go. Welcome, Henry. Hope you're rotting in hell. Now let's see. I was like, I had to feature that. That was funny. It's like I can't believe his ghost just showed up. Okay, so let's look. You sure you heard about the new COVID, right?
Oh yeah, the reboot of
Yeah,
COVID. They're gonna
I
well,
call it I call it COVID 2.0.
yeah, exactly. And it's just it's like super uh so much of a coincidence that it just so happens to line up with election season.
Yeah, the same thing. They're setting up another 2020. The
Yeah.
ghost is now kind. Let me see what he's saying. Did you ever get a Nazi war criminal prize? And then I get the loser. You know, I'm a loser. They're like, yeah, you're the one rotting in hell, not me. So let's see.
Now is the new COVID, that's the strain of pneumonia that they're
Pneumonia
saying.
that is spreading like crazy and killing everybody.
Now, I saw something that was saying that it's only or primarily just targeting kids. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that was just
That's
speculation.
That's what I heard too, and I don't know whether it's just speculation or it's true, but this is kind of new. This is kind of breaking. Like I saw this first time like 2 days ago. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me, because COVID also affected the lungs too. The world
Mhm.
on high alert after mysterious outbreak in China again rapidly spreads. 8 countries now hit, multiples other high alert. Senators call for Biden to prohibit travel from China amid concerns over unknown pneumonia outbreak, just in time for election season, as you said.
Yep.
Medical professionals in certain areas, Massachusetts and Ohio, have noticed significant rise in pneumonia cases among children. Yeah, that's what I heard too. Echoing similar outbreaks in China and various European countries. Warren County, located 30 miles from Cincinnati, has experienced 142 cases of the condition known as white lung syndrome in children since August. Local health officials have characterized this number as exceptionally high. So this is all the countries, so far that have been affected. USA has cases. It looks like China and I think England there and different parts of Europe and other
Mhm.
countries on high alert.
See,
So,
I, and look, at the risk of sounding like a crazy conspiracy theorist, I just have to wonder, like, is the goal here to just not have an election? Is the
um,
goal to just be like, you know what, we have this crisis, we cannot afford to risk public health, and we have to delay these, you know what I mean? And it
mhm.
come from this very benevolent, seemingly, place of kindness and compassion and concern, and like, oh, they have to do this. I just think they are so desperate to not um to not have an election because I think they know they can't run Biden. I mean, what a disaster. And they don't really have a bench. Like, there's really no one
Hmm.
who are you going to go to? So I
Gavin
think
Newsom.
if they could find a way to not have an election, I think they would take it.
Oh yeah, but I'm thinking one or two scenarios. Either Gavin Newsom replaces Biden at the convention because they remember he had the debate yesterday with DeSantis.
Hmm.
Why would he agree to do that unless he's running some sort of shadow campaign for president?
Yeah, and so I don't know how much of it you watched, but in I sat through the whole thing,
Mm.
and there was one part where DeSantis tried to kind of hold his feet to the fire and say, like, are you running? Are you running? And then Sean Hannity, who was moderating, said, will you say right now you unequivocally you are not running? And he kind of like well, he didn't answer a single question all night. This was no
No,
different, but he was kind of like, well, why, he made it seem like it was ridiculous. Like, why would you even think I was running? Biden is running. And he literally said Biden is in great shape. I'm sorry that there's just like, if you are that detached from reality, you are willing
he
to, with
isn't.
a straight face, say to the American public, Biden is in great shape. Why would you even ask me if I was right? Like, he was just doing this whole performance of like he's so perplexed by this question. And he said if it wasn't Biden, it would be Kamala.
They don't
That
want to
woman
run
didn't even
Kamala.
get one delegate. She couldn't even get her own state. Like, what are you talking about? It's not going to be Kamala.
They don't want to run Kamala. I
Mm,
mean, Gavin Newsom's full of crap. And look, he's not that dense. He knows Biden isn't well.
of
I
course
mean,
he does.
he's just a greasy politician. I mean, if you cast a politician in a movie, Gavin Newsom's your guy. He's just perfect. He has the greasy
He's
hair and he has
yeah,
the perfect
he's like a
smile.
slick talking
Yeah,
psychopath.
it's Obama
He
2.0. Instead, he's
well,
white.
who he reminds me of is like a like a slicker, kind of nastier version of Clinton, like the affect. That's
Uh
what
huh.
he reminds me of. That's what I
Yeah.
hear. But like Clinton had a bit of charm. At least Newsom, I just get like sleaze. I just get straight up sleaze. Um, but to answer your original thing, why would he do the debate? The only other thing I could think of is that he was up there to basically do like a promotion for, yes, Biden, but it was just like a promo for the Democratic Party. Like, it was just this, I'm going to be up here doing an advertisement for the next 2 hours talking about how great Joe Biden's administration has been. And it just sounds
Yeah,
delusional.
he's doing that because he wants to stay good with the party bosses. So he's
Mhm.
running a shadow campaign. So
I
it's like,
think so
okay,
too.
if Joe Biden dies or somehow his polling number gets worse and he has no chance against Trump, then he'll be like, hey, look, I'm right here. I mean, at the conventions, I'm right here. I'm
And
Nancy Pelosi's nephew. I'm right here.
when's
This
the
is just install
convention?
me. August of next year,
Okay.
some point in August. So it's still time, for a shadow campaign.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah. Oh,
And
Henry
he
Kissinger is
went
still hanging
to
around. Oh, go
didn't
ahead, go
he
ahead.
go to China? And he's doing all the
Yeah,
things you would do if you were running.
yeah, he went to China and then Xi Jinping came to San Francisco, and I'm sure you heard about him like shooing away all the homeless,
The
arresting
homeless
them or putting them.
magically disappeared,
Yeah.
and San Francisco was just beautiful, and
Hmm.
it yeah, and then the minute that was over, it all came back.
Either they were arrested or they were put in shelters or just like kicked out of the city, and then as soon as Ping was gone, it's like, oh, here you come right
Yeah,
back.
I heard
Uh,
that they were moved just like out of sight, like just away from where all of the main, event was going to be. It was just like go around the corner.
Yeah, so Kissinger's ghost is still hanging around, and he said this about you. So I wanted you to read this. Your guest is hot, my girlfriend. It's like, okay. And then then he puts so yeah, I'm trying ghost. I mean, dislike the stream. Don't say much else. But so yeah, I wanted you to, he's referring to
Well,
you, so I'm not sure you
I'm
see it.
okay. Thank you, Kissinger's ghost.
So his girlfriend, I don't know who it
Oh,
is,
his
and
girl. Well,
somebody
yes.
his girlfriend said that. It
I would
wasn't
be
him,
very
but
curious about the girlfriend of Kissinger's ghost, actually.
I don't know. Yeah, he didn't specify. It just said my girlfriend. So
Mm,
all right, so let's see whether he specifies. He's still around the stream. Ron DeSantis goes off on Gavin Newsom. I have a few clips, and then we'll watch
okay.
these. You almost have to try and mess up California. I only saw the first half an hour of debate, so I couldn't stomach sitting through the whole thing. They actually at one point ran out of U-Hauls in the state of California because so many people were leaving. That part I don't know how true that is, but that could be hyperbole. But a lot of people moved out of California. A lot of people moved out of California ever since especially the last 2 years, especially after COVID.
They're still moving out of California.
Yeah, I'm sure. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, I'm in New Jersey right now, and this blue state is. I mean, we shut down for 2 years, and we're
Hmm.
so yeah, we reopened, and then it's like then the school shut down again. It was like a whole ridiculous thing here in New Jersey where schools reopen, school shut down, school reopen. Okay, now let's shut down. Some schools shut down, some remain open. It was like just it made Phil Murphy look incompetent to the point he nearly lost re-election. He barely won by like 2 points. I was like, he won? Wow. I mean, and he was leading by 10 points the day
Mm,
before the election day. He barely won by two. So that shows how unpopular he was. And somehow he managed to win re-election. So yeah,
wow.
so let's watch this real quick.
Governor, what's going on?
When I was in the Navy, I got orders to go to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in Southern California. And I was a lifelong Floridian, but I went there and I was like, man, this is one of the most beautiful places on earth. And I think California has more natural advantages than any state in the country. You almost have to try to mess California up. And yeah, that's what Gavin Newsom has done since he's been governor. He's the first governor to ever lose population. They actually, at one point, ran out of U-Hauls in the state of California because so many people were leaving. Of course, he's imposed restrictions on his own people while exempting himself from those restrictions and going to the French Laundry while his people were suffering. He led the country in school closures.
I can't stand his Gavin Newsom's greasy
That
smile. Every time he
grin,
smiles, it gives me the creeps. Just now when he smiled, he reminds me of American Psycho.
yeah, no, everyone says that. American Psycho. That
Mm-hmm.
fucking grin. It's creepy.
Yeah, it sends chills. Like every time, like, oh god, he's kind of like Clinton, but Clinton wasn't creepy, or at
Yeah,
least in that way. He was creepy in other
exactly.
ways, but not that way.
Exactly.
Let me finish the clip.
Locking kids out of school while he had his own kids in private school in person. Now, he's very good at spinning these tales. He's good at being slick and slippery. He'll tell a blizzard of lies to be able to try to mask the failures. But the reality is they have failed because of his leftist ideology. And the choice for America is this. What Biden and Harris and Newsom want to do is take the California model and do that nationally. In Florida, we showed that conservative principles work. This country must choose freedom over failure.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but just meaningless rhetoric. But yeah, I mean, Desert Mantis says, "Wow, an AI ghost of Kissinger. You're blowing my mind." I had no idea he was in there until I looked at the chat. It was like the ghost of Henry Kissinger. I'm like, did he? As soon as I mentioned him, did he show up in the chat? I don't know. I wasn't really looking until I looked a few minutes ago. Like, oh, the ghost of Henry Kissinger is here.
Yeah, like I don't know if that was coincidence or if our conversation, like if you summoned him somehow.
Yeah, but I was like, what the fuck? I was like, ghost of Henry Kissinger? I mean, somebody created a troll YouTube channel, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I mean, it's Gavin Newsom. I mean, how the Democrats they're gonna either run him in this next year or in 28, but they're definitely running him.
Yeah,
And
no,
there
they're
ain't gonna be much, and there ain't gonna be much of a challenge to Newsom in either 24 or 28 when he does run.
And that's
because
really too bad because I think this is an incredibly dangerous man
oh
because I
yeah,
think he's actually psychotic.
oh yeah. I mean, he's been trained his entire life to be president. I mean, he does all the mannerism. He's really well trained. He does this and he does that, and everything a trained politician does, he does it. And I mean, I'm like, and yeah, I mean, it's so obvious that Nancy Pelosi has trained this guy, his entire life to be president
Hmm.
because it's like I'm like, yeah, it's so obvious. It's like it's so painfully obvious he's gonna run, and nobody's gonna challenge him. And these progressive commentators on YouTube thinking, "Oh, we're gonna run AOC, or we're gonna run this progressive, or we're gonna run the governor of Minnesota. He's a real progressive. He'll run." They're not gonna take him seriously. It's like it's Gavin Newsom or bust for them, and
Right.
they'll install him if they have to. They're
And
taught.
someone like AOC, she would get killed everywhere outside of New York, and she wouldn't even get all of New York. Like she's not that one does not have mass appeal. That is such an elite lived out fantasy. Like that's may okay, maybe the East Coast, like elitist East Coast. I don't even think she's getting the West Coast. Like, no, that's not there. That would be ridiculous. I cannot see that happening.
I mean, in order to win the nomination, AOC would have to win not just in the Northeast here where I'm at. She had to win in Georgia and the South, which forget about it. She had to
It's
win
not
Florida.
happening.
Forget about it. There's no
No.
chance. She has to win California and Texas. I mean, Texas is very important. She's not going to
Mhm.
win there either. So, only places she might win is New York, Massachusetts, maybe New Jersey, but even then, there's some conservative pockets here.
Mhm.
So even in
Mhm.
New York there is. Whoops. Even in New York there is. So
I mean,
yeah,
I
she's not going to
imagine
win.
every state there is. Like, there's not, I mean, yeah, you can have a consensus, you have a red state or a blue state or whatever, but like, there is no state that's like they are all one thing. And a lot of this divides too with urban versus rural. There's that as well, you know? So there's a lot to consider. But like, AOC, no, her appeal is stretches like a couple of inches and then we're done.
Yeah,
So
she
I
doesn't have much appeal outside the elitists in Brooklyn or
no.
Manhattan or here in New Jersey. And the ghost Henry Kissinger is back. Let me see what he says. Oh, the person on the left is the guest. No, the person on the right is the guest. I mean, so I'm not sure he's trolling me or what, but yeah, so let's go to AOC even lost the DSA and Socialist Dem voters. Yeah, Rick. I mean, she's lost everybody. Hell, when I remember when she donated, I think it was last year, to a bunch of CIA agents that are in Congress, and they gave them money back. They were so embarrassed.
Gotcha.
That's how ridiculous she is. Nobody takes her seriously. Let's see. Breaking. Opening their strange debates. Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis is one thing in closing that we have in common. Neither of us will be a nominee for our party in 24. Ouch! Burn! No, Gavin Newsom wants to be a nominee, though. I mean, even though he says he's not going to be, but he's just playing the political game.
Gotcha.
Well, it's good to be with you, Sean. It's nice also to see you in a tie as well tonight. Good to be with you, Ron. And
I dressed up for the occasion, Governor.
No, I'm impressed and I'm grateful. Look, it's an important occasion. This is an important conversation, and I think it's important to the folks watching. They're probably wondering, what are we actually doing here? And I want to answer that very directly. I'll tell you why I'm here. I'm here to tell the truth about the Biden-Harris record, and
No, he doesn't.
also compare and contrast Ron DeSantis' record and the Republican Party's record as a point of contrast that's as different as daylight and darkness. You want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world, America in reverse. You want to roll back hard-earned national rights on voting rights, on civil rights, on LGBTQ rights, on women's rights, not just access to abortion,
Suddenly
but
he
also
knows
access.
what a woman is. Wait,
Yeah,
suddenly he knows what a woman is.
He's
When you
bringing
have to
up
talk
this.
about women's rights, suddenly he knows what a woman is.
Yeah. I mean, he's bringing up. He's a Democrat. He had to bring up the SJW politics. Ghost
Of
Henry
course.
Kissinger loved the goatee. Oh, thank you. I'd say I take a lot of pride in my goatee. But yeah, I mean, he has to bring up the SJW stuff because he got nothing else. And now all of a sudden, like you said, he does know what a woman is. What a coincidence. And I think they bring up abortion later in this debate. I only saw the first half an hour. So.
Yeah, that's a big thing later on too.
Access to contraception. You want to weaponize grievance. You are focusing on false separateness. You in particular, Ron, are on a banning binge, a cultural purge, intimidating and humiliating people you disagree with. You and President Trump are really trying to light democracy on fire. So, Sean, there are profound differences tonight, and I look forward to engage them. But there's one thing in closing that we have in common is neither of us will be the nominee for our party in 2024.
Governor, great.
Ooh, burn, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But here's the thing about it. And it was like that all night. And the thing is that, so he would have lines like that where you're like, oh, damn, he zinged him or whatever. But the thing is, anytime that DeSantis went after Newsom with something like that, there was a fact, a statistical fact that went along with that. Whereas when Newsom would attack DeSantis, it was just that with nothing. It's just the schoolyard, oh, damn, but you have nothing. Yeah. DeSantis would go at him and then be like, and the stat is XYZ. And I'm saying this because, and then give some piece of actual material information. Newsom didn't do that. It was all emotionalism and just comparing him to Trump or talking about how far behind in the polls he is from Trump. It's like, okay, but ultimately what is your point? I don't understand. You're not actually talking about fact. If you want to get your witty, snarky stuff in, all right, cool, but you should probably also have some facts in there as well. And that's what he was lacking.
Yeah. I mean, not DeSantis, the other one, Newsom, he just the worst. I mean, it's oh yeah, let me do this and let me do that. Let me not say anything and just, let's see. High Desert. Thank you for joining. Dr. Nick Riviera's here too. Cowboy Kitty. Love y'all. Thank you for all the love. Henry Kissenger's back. Angels, an underrated show. Thank you for the endorsement. Let's see.
Your viewers have some very fun and original names and handles.
Yeah, I mean, Desert Mantis is here. Thank you. Everybody's here tonight. And let's see what else. There's a few more clips. Hold on, let me see. If I kind of lost them. Oh, the migrants one. Okay, I assume you saw this. Gavin, I only saw the first half an hour, so I couldn't take it. But Gavin Newsom to Ron DeSantis, you're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games to try to get some news and attention so you can out-Trump Trump. And by the way, how's that going for you, Ron? You're down 41 points in your home state. Another burn. That's what he did.
But that's all he had.
Yeah. That's all he had throughout the night. So what I saw was it's so cringy. And that's all he had. It's embarrassing.
Good question. I support border security. I think the asylum system is broken. I believe that we need.
I understand that.
I'm the only guy here that's a border state governor. You're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games, to try to get some news and attention so you can out-Trump Trump. And by the way, how's that going for you, Ron? You're down 41 points in your own home state. On the issue of immigration, Joe Biden put a $14 billion immigration package up in front of Congress, 2,300 border agents, as well as custom officials, 1,000 new law enforcement officers to deal with the fentanyl issue. And by the way, that's a major issue in your state, 41% higher overdose rates than the state of...
Fentanyl is an issue throughout the entire country. I mean, he's just trying to burn them in Florida, but it's here in New Jersey, is epidemic too. So he's acting like, oh, it's a problem just in Florida. I mean, there's 3 times the national average. So it's
California. And here's what I haven't heard. Not a peep from Ron DeSantis. They want to demagogue this issue. You want to play politics with issues. You don't want to solve this issue. Why don't you lead your party and support that $14 billion package?
Hold on. I have a follow-up. Governor Newsom, I appreciate your answer. You have mentioned comprehensive immigration reform many times. It's not happened under Joe Biden. I don't think it's going to
We
happen
put a
next year.
detailed plan in Republican.
which didn't pass and never has a chance of passing. But yeah, I mean, there's more of absurdity. It's like this Burns, like, oh, look at that, I got him, I got him.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, like I said, he kind of just had the same type of pivots all the way through. It was like on a loop. It was talking about where he is in the polls. It was or just doing complete projection, like everything that is wrong with California, he's just putting on Florida. Like and even back at the beginning, I don't think it wasn't part of the first clip you played, but when they were talking about the migration from California to Florida, and Newsom was basically like, that's not true. They brought up an actual statistic showing like, no, and it was like, that's not true. Like, Gavin Newsom to me is the epitome of what happens when we just decide that personal truth is valid, because
yeah,
he is a personal truth politician.
yep,
Facts don't matter, stats don't matter. He's just going to tell you what's actually true as dictated by his worldview, and then there you go. Whereas DeSantis, I would not call myself a DeSantis fan,
yeah,
but I do have to say that Ron came with facts and receipts and props. The man had props. I don't know if you have in the clips, but there was one point where they were talking about all of the sex and gender madness that's going on in schools, and DeSantis takes out from his pocket a page from one of the books that Newsom is saying, you're banning these books, and he's like, okay, let's look at some of this book that you say I'm banning, which, first of all, it's not banned. Like, not having a book in a school library is not equivalent to it being banned. Banned means it's illegal. These are very important distinctions. And it's literally just a very I know the book. It was from Genderqueer, and it's just an incredibly graphic depiction of various sexual acts that have nothing to do with sex ed. Like, we need sex ed in school, 110%, absolutely.
yeah,
I had comprehensive sex ed in school, but it did not depict like anal or blowjobs, or like we need like there's education, and then there's like what seems to be just designed to be like scintillating or something, you know what I mean? And there is a difference. So he ripped that out of his pocket, and he was like, what about this? I mean, hello.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's absurd. I'm pretty sure this is part of that clip. What it says here: Gavin Newsom has shown the sexually explicit
Yeah.
books he criticized DeSantis for banning. We don't provide K third grade education, that kind of curriculum. These guys make it up. And then he says, what I find offensive, very significant number of these books happen to be LGBTQ books. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, same crap. Let me just play some of this.
Question to you: are the book banning issues? Is that not a state issue? Is that a state issue or a local
It's
issue?
local, and he's
Okay, that's all I want to know.
The phone book wasn't
But
there. That
here's
was
the
not
question I have.
1,400
Here's the
books have been
question I have
banned
for you,
in the state.
Governor Newsom.
1,406.
Some of the books you're talking about, one is called, the governor just brought it up, it's called Genderqueer, a memoir, explicit pornographic book showing sex acts. Another, Flamer, graphic book about young boys performing sex acts at summer camp. This book is Gay, a book containing instructions on the ins and outs of gay sexuality. Let me finish. Let's Talk About It, a book that contains graphic descriptions about how to masturbate for males and females. My question to you, Governor Newsom, those books, do you believe that's appropriate for school districts to teach kids? Yes or no?
Come on, those aren't not. It's not part of the curriculum. They're not teaching
Those
kids
are those are books that were in school.
Hold on. The bottom line is
He's defensive, but let's see what's he
you
says.
are on a book banning binge. Your state. 1,406 books, 3,362 in this country.
You didn't answer.
Florida's
what about
leading,
those books?
Florida. That's not. We don't provide for K through third grade education that kind of curriculum. It's just made up. These guys make it up. It's part of this cultural purge.
Should it
it's
be?
Just a made
what grade? What grade would it be acceptable?
What I find offensive, Sean and Ron, what I find offensive is a very significant number of these books happen to be LGBTQ books. A significant number of these books.
SJW politics. I mean, well, they're LGBTQ books, though. That's, I mean, that's horrible, right? To ban them, even though they depict graphic sexual content for kids.
Exactly, and
all
I
that
think
stuff.
that's like this sort of the picture they try to paint is like, oh, you want this quote banned because it's LGBTQ. No, nobody is saying that. They want it to not be in a school library because it is graphically and explicitly and borders, if not actual pornography. That's why. You could plug straight people in there. It doesn't matter. It's not about that. And it's this willful misunderstanding that's incredibly manipulative and deceptive,
Yeah.
I've
And
never heard anybody say, oh, I want it banned because it shows gay people. Like, literally, I don't know any reasonable person that would say that.
yeah, and they wouldn't, but it's just gaslighting. It's like, oh, you want these book banned because they're LGBTQ, not because they're graphic. I'm like, no, nobody said that. I mean, these books shouldn't be in elementary school, especially. Maybe you can make an argument for high school, but even then, it's kind of questionable.
That could be left up to debate, sure.
Yeah.
But did you see that that thing with Gavin Newsom that went around, like maybe it was like a week ago, where he tried to stoke this hysteria over a law in Tennessee that had to do with indecent exposure and things like that in the public square, like being naked in public essentially, and it was just like, we're not going to do that in Tennessee. And Gavin Newsom tweeted out that story with the line, it is now illegal to be gay in Tennessee. What?
It talks about nudity laws. I didn't. How's that connect to gay people? I don't know, but
it's like, well, that's apparently what Newsom thinks of gay culture and gay people is like, they are depraved, so therefore if you expect them to be decent, that's hateful. I mean, that's incredibly homophobic.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's like, no. All right, let's see what else he says.
Do you think it's appropriate in school?
African Americans.
Do you think it's
honestly find
Governor?
I
Do you
told
think it's
we don't
appropriate in
teach
school?
that. We don't teach that.
In there.
We have sex education in middle schools and high schools where it's appropriate. This is a ginned up, made up issue to divide this country. You talk about dividing this country. This is part of the culture war, the weaponization of grievance. This is part using education. We're focusing on math, science. We're focusing on reimagining our school system.
We're going to get to education
He's criminalizing teachers and criminalizing librarians that check out the wrong book.
The schools to impose a liberal agenda, social justice. They have this ethnic studies where they're dividing people. That's what they're doing. But let me just say something about parents' rights, because he says California respects parents' rights. This is rich. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight. This may be the biggest. In California, if you're a parent in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina, your minor child can go to California without your knowledge or without your consent and get hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and a sex change operation, all without you knowing or consenting. How in the heck is that honoring parents' rights when you're bringing people from out of state to go around their parents' backs and getting life-altering surgeries? That is radical. That is
Ron,
extreme.
these kids
that is an assault on parents' rights.
You know what, Ron?
It's not for you.
Yeah, it's 100% true. I mean, those laws are in the books in California.
Yeah. And he said, like, listen to how insidious that was. Ron, these kids just want to live. That's a complete, first of all, that's an absurd response. And second of all, it's just designed to emotionally manipulate you. They
Yeah.
just want to live. Your state will
Right.
take in a minor that has previous trauma, possibly is on the autism spectrum, has suffered prior abuse or sexual trauma, whatever it is. And if they say, I'm the opposite sex, California's like, cool, that's all we need to know. We're gonna trans you without telling your parents because your parents are hateful. I mean, that is like, I cannot envision a reasonable society being like, that sounds good. That sounds right. That's loving and kind.
Yeah. I mean, as who said it? Gamer said in the chat, I don't mind people being trans, but at 18, not for kids. Yeah, I mean, you do whatever you want when you're 18. It's not, I had no problem with it. But under 18, it's like you have to get parents' approval, and even then, it's like I mean, kids are still growing at that point. It's still developing. You want to
Exactly.
give them all these hormones and they want to give them all this stuff. And girls, they're giving them fake penises. And
Oh
I've
my
seen the
god.
pictures on Twitter. It's awful. It's like
It's absolutely
it's
awful.
tra- it,
And I think it's also important because you know, like I'll tweet about this often because I've fallen down the rabbit hole with this and I am passionate about it. But I think that like one of the biggest things is like and they've done a good job of this in the public conscious, and it's a problem. Conflating gender ideology with actual transsexuals is a huge mistake. They are incredibly, incredibly different things. And what this has done to the gay community, what this has done to actual transsexuals, to women, even to men, it's a very parasitic kind of ideology that basically is looking to dismantle everything that we have known to be true around sex and gender. It's the complete appropriation of a medical condition. Um, Transsexual is somebody with gender dysphoria, which I can only imagine how crippling that is to live with.
yeah.
Um, that needs comprehensive diagnosis and in many cases a social and or medical transition is sought out so that that person can not reject society but assimilate into society. Like any actual transsexual will tell you that they don't
Yeah.
want to be asked their pronouns. They don't want to be like seen as, oh, I'm just a man in a dress with like a beard and you still have to cut. Like, no, they actually want to present and live as close to as possible as the opposite sex. That's why they seek transition. But that's not
Yeah.
what gender ideology is.
No, I mean, to me, the whole thing is kind of like both sides are using it for political purposes.
Oh, that's
And
100% true.
yeah, so that's why, I'm kind of like, come on, man, it's just absurd. And we were on migrants earlier and how
Mhm.
Republicans are purposely sending illegal immigrants to blue states and blue cities in order to, so for them to see what's going on. Like in Chicago. I mean, I think you tweeted about this, but I
Yeah.
wanted Mayor Brandon Johnson blames city migrant crisis on far right January 6th and not accepting the Civil War outcome. So he has a meltdown here, the new
He
mayor.
has a meltdown.
I mean, it's like, it's just only a clip of it, but he just does this only 50 seconds. But yeah, he has
Yeah.
a huge meltdown. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I mean, it's like because Chicago, they're pressuring him to do something about these migrants, and he's not because he's such a progressive. He's like, I don't want to get rid of them. I don't want to, hurt my chances of reelection. But most of your citizens like get rid of these, do something. I mean, they're all over the streets in Chicago. I mean,
Oh,
they're taking up,
Chicago, that poor city, like Chicago has fallen.
yeah, I mean, it's horrible out there. So let's see him melt down here, and then we'll just.
What we've seen is a very raggedy form instituted by right-wing extremism Everyone knows that the right-wing extremism in this country has targeted democratically ran cities. And quite frankly, they've been very intentional about going after democratically ran cities that are led by people of color. And their whole motivation is to create disruption and
No,
chaos.
it's all racism.
Racism. You see, they're
All
doing this
racism.
to big cities that have black mayors or black leadership.
Yeah.
Because that's what that particular party has been about. Right? This is the same political party that did not want to accept that President Obama was actually an American. It's the same Republican right-wing extremism that stormed the Capitol. It's the same right-wing extremism that refuses to accept the results of the Civil War. It's raggedy. It's just
The Civil War was over 100 years ago, and you're like, oh well, they don't accept the results of the Civil War. Who does? Who doesn't? There's like less than. It's like Southern, like Ku Klux Klan racists. You know, there's very few of them
I
left.
think
So like,
what he actually is suggesting, it's complete lunacy. He's actually suggesting, again with a straight face, that in his case, the governor of Texas is sending migrants to Chicago because he is bitter about the outcome of the Civil War.
it's just insane. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like, oh no. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, it's obvious that, it's obvious that they're doing this because they're racist, not because. I mean, because usually we don't hear people in the Northeast and Chicago, and we don't really see these immigrants. We have no idea what's going on. I mean, we don't live in border states, so it's like
No, I've seen, so there's one I don't know if you're familiar with this YouTuber, but Greg Foreman, he has a show called Black Conservative Perspective, and he covers the migrant thing extensively, a lot, especially with Chicago. So if you watch his episodes, you see a lot of footage because he seeks that out, and the footage is insane. And then the interviews that you see with the residents of Chicago, these people who put Brandon Johnson in office, these liberal working class people who now just feel completely stripped of everything. Their services are being taken away, right, for them, for their children, their families, and they feel like he doesn't give a damn. He doesn't give a damn. He doesn't give a damn, because to me, I think the people who he actually needs to please in Chicago are like the rich libs who do not see this out their kitchen window. They are not being affected by this, but those are the ones who want to be able to say, oh, Chicago is a sanctuary city. We're so progressive. We're so compassionate. Yeah, because you don't have to deal with the actual material consequences of these compassionate and seemingly moral proposals, right?
Yeah, and now they do, because the Republicans are like, okay, let's just send them to Chicago or New York or LA. And now, oh my God, now it's not right, but they're racist. They're sending us all these immigrants and we don't know what to do with them. And Brandon Johnson.
Like, you're a sanctuary city.
Yeah.
You're a sanctuary city. You are saying we want them. You just wanted to be able to say that and never have to actually back it up and have that reality come to your door. And now it is.
Yeah, it's virtue signaling. It's like, oh yeah, we're a sanctuary city. Oh shit, it turns out you sent us all these immigrants. We had no room for them, and it's taking up all our social programs, and our citizens actually pissed off at us. Yeah, I mean, it's racism. Come on, just leave me alone. So that's their attitude. Right,
yeah, no, exactly. So it's like these poor residents in places like Chicago, right, are now being told, oh, well, if you don't accept this, you're racist.
Yeah.
What? My God.
It's ridiculous.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's
blue state, red state.
They don't get their virtue signal anymore. All right. Ron DeSantis is not a very skilled debater. Gavin Newsom destroying numbers and almost destroying him. Here's a debate on immigration. Excuse me. It's 4 minutes. I'm not going to play all this, but we'll see how much I get through.
Blue state, red state debate with Governor Gavin Newsom and Governor Ron DeSantis. Gentlemen, let's move on to the issue of borders. Joe Biden's message to illegal immigrants during his campaign was, let them come. I'd have the tape, but I said I wouldn't play the tape. And since taking office, Biden said he's gotten control of the border. Vice President Kamala Harris, Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, Biden's press secretary Karyn Jean-Pierre have all said the border is either secure or the border is closed. Yet the Border Patrol says, well, guess what? They have been a record 6.5 million encounters with illegal immigrants and so-called asylum seekers at the border since President Biden took office. The administration says, well, they don't know how many people actually are in the country illegally. Gentlemen, the American people, I ask you.
Yeah, thank you, Gamer. I mean, good luck. Have a nice night.
I believe it's your turn, Governor Newsom. Have the American people on the issue of borders, you're defending the Biden administration. They're saying the border's secure. They're saying the border's closed. Those are the numbers from our own Border Patrol. Are the American people being lied to?
I don't think they're being lied to. The Biden administration put out a comprehensive plan day one when he got sworn into office 3 years ago, and the Republican Party didn't touch it. They haven't moved on it. They play politics with us. And I'll be honest with you, I think there's probably one person I wouldn't listen to on this topic more than the guy that I'm standing next to, Ron DeSantis. He lacks any credibility on the issue of immigration. When he was in Congress, he supported amnesty. When he's in Congress, you supported John Boehner's bill. It's a fact. When you were in Congress, you supported Obama's. You supported Obama's efforts to advance comprehensive reform.
False.
The last guy you want to talk to on the issue of immigration. Your immigration policy can best be described as a governor from the state of Florida going into another state, the state of Texas, lying to migrants, promising them jobs and housing, sending them to an island, Martha's Vineyard, and then sending them to a parking lot in Sacramento, California. I met with those migrants that you lied to under false pretense. That kind of gamesmanship, using human beings as pawns, I think is disqualifying. So again, a guy who stands here who's been out on the Republican debate stage saying, well, he's going to be tough, he's going to shoot people with backpacks, and that he has a strategy to potentially even invade our second largest trading partner, Mexico, that has a record of supporting amnesty and supporting reforms under the Obama administration, is the last guy to be standing on stage talking about the issue of immigration reform tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's deja vu all over again with that flurry of lies. This is a guy that says the Biden administration is not lying to the public about the border. They go to the White House briefing room every day. They say the border's secure. They are lying to you. We know that that's not true. Gavin Newsom is lying to you when he says somehow I supported these things, which I didn't do. He's also lying to you about what it's going to take to solve this problem. California is a sanctuary state. They thumb their nose at federal immigration law, and this has real consequences. There was an illegal alien, Herbert Nixon Flores, who was in L.A., in custody. He was a repeat criminal. ICE wanted to take him into custody because then they would be able to deport him. L.A. refuses to work with ICE, and so they wouldn't turn him over. They end up releasing him on the street. He ends up murdering the mother of a 3-year-old little girl. Those policies are deadly. They do not work. And I would tell you this. The Martha's Vineyard transport, Martha's Vineyard said it was a sanctuary jurisdiction. Kind of reminds me about Gavin Newsom when he restricted Californians, then he went to the French Laundry. These liberal elites, they like to impose burdens on you. They don't want to have to face the consequences of their actions. So we've got a lot of...
Yeah, I mean, he's right about all that. And Ron DeSantis was like, come on, man. It's like, you're such a liar. And then it's like, oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, now Martha's Vineyard, for example, now they had to deal with the migrants. And I don't know what happened to those migrants. I'm not sure where they sent them, but they did send them away really quickly. It's like, hey, welcome. And all the cameras were there, if you remember that moment. Like, we give you food and water and here's some blankets. And once the cameras were away, oh, yeah, goodbye, fuck off.
No, we don't. Well, because this is the thing. I feel like a lot of these progressive governors, what they ultimately want is for red states to bear the material brunt of blue state virtue signaling. Yeah. That's essentially what it is. It's like, we'll virtue signal and look awesome, and you bear the material consequence. Because what they're pissed about is that, like, the immigration problem is now in their cities. That's That's exactly what it is. Like, we really just wanted a virtue signal about this. This is supposed to be a red state problem. And then we're supposed to be able to call everyone in a red state racist when they bitch about it. Like, that's really what they're like, you're not playing by the rules. We had this set up. We had a little system.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's just ridiculous. And it's like, yeah. And then it now again, now New York having major issues, and I wanted to show this tweet which you sent out, and I think it's yesterday. It's like
Mhm.
New York. It's like crisis in New York. 94-year-old vet struggles to move on after nursing home evicts him, replaced by migrants. The veteran and his daughter say city is more worried about migrants than Americans. I mean, I mean, that's what these cities would have to do with these people. They're
Mhm.
running around like, oh yeah, let's bring us all the migrants. I mean, we're a sanctuary city. Oh
There's
shit!
no
Now
plan.
they have no plans and never expected these migrants to be sent here or to come up to New York in the thousands or in the millions even.
And what's going to happen to these people in the winter who, even if you were used to like a New England or East Coast kind of climate,
Hmm.
um, it would be near impossible to survive. What is going to happen to these people who they have maybe sleeping in a tent? Like Chicago, it gets bitter. Like, it's Arctic. Like, what? I just feel like you're going to see death. It's going to be very, very grim.
Hmm. People freezing to death or people doing this and that. Cowboy Kitty said something. I assume it's about your hair. I have no hair, but she says you love her hair.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's not me. I mean, I
no
just shaved
problem.
my but yeah, I
I
assume it's
love
about
your
you.
hair.
Oh, thank you. Only hair I have is here, my
You do have
base,
a
but
rocking goatee, though.
yeah,
You
thank you.
do.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see here. Let me go back to the debates one more, and then I'll move on to the next topic. Uh,
Okay.
because it's like, I mean, this debate after half an hour, I had enough. But it just now this is the abortion thing. Where I think you were talking about where the Republicans are just in. Let me play the clip, and then I'll. Right. Oh shoot! I'm sorry.
National ban.
It'd be nice if I actually, shared my screen.
But no, you
Sorry
won't.
about
But
that.
Hold on.
respectfully, this is an important conversation. Will you or will you not support
you didn't
a
answer,
national?
Sean.
Ron,
Why didn't you answer
or will
his
you
question?
not support
Why didn't
a
you
national
support?
ban if
Why?
it lands on your desk? You couldn't answer that in any other context.
Okay,
Answer it
gentlemen,
tonight. It's a
we're
simple
moving
yes or
on
no.
to
By
the
the way,
next
hey,
issue.
no, Sean, not a
You
next
never
issue.
gave a
The
week.
American people should know this. I'll answer it for Ron DeSantis. Can't answer it. He will sign that extreme.
Okay,
6-week
let me move
national
on.
ban.
This is the
Please,
six
Oh,
week
but he,
ban.
hold on.
respect.
This is a 6 week ban, and Republicans are kind of scrambling right now. At least they're scrambling, and they're because after Roe versus Wade was overturned. I mean, most Americans are pro life, or no, I'm sorry, pro choice,
Mhm.
and they're kind of scrambling now. Like, we don't want to piss off our base, but at the same time, we don't want to say we're going to sign a 6 week abortion ban nationally, because if we do, we'll lose most of the country, and
Yeah.
all of them trying to walk this political tightrope. Like,
No,
oh
they
no,
all
go
are.
ahead,
I
yeah.
mean, and I think even Trump has said, like, Republicans, like, you can't die on that hill anymore. Like, you can't die on that hill.
Hmm.
You've got to look, America, like, they like their abortions, okay? And I say
Hmm.
that as someone who is pro-choice. Like, I
Yeah.
I think that I do think we probably like kind of fetishize that topic a little bit. I think we make a bit too much out of it. I never used to think that, and I think that now. However, I do think that, like, yes, of course, having reproductive freedom in that way is very important. However, oh, sorry, my Greyhound's crashing.
Oh wow. Hello.
And go over there. Um, However, I also don't think that it is necessarily unreasonable to say, okay, well, when we're
Hmm.
into months like 7, 8, 9, are there some restrictions or things or that we should? I mean, this can be a nuanced conversation while
Yeah.
still keeping the foundation of pro-choice. Um, I don't think Republicans are going to have much success if they're like, we're just outlawing this flat out. And I don't think many of them even want to do that at this point. It's kind of the same thing with like gay marriage. Like I think you're going to be hard pressed to find Republicans or just conservatives in general who are going to die on that hill. Like I just think that a lot of times the Democrats and the left still think they are battling a GOP from the 1980s, and they're not. And so you're losing people because it's like, how many gay Republicans I have as like Twitter followers, or gay
Yeah.
conservatives, or even trans conservatives. Like, they exist. It's
Yeah.
not that rare. So you got to let some of this shit go. And that goes for the left too, where it's like, you're not going to get people just on like, oh, they're going to take abortion, they're going to revert gay marriage. No, they're not. No one's doing that. You
The
know?
yeah, the politicians aren't. Maybe the Supreme Court could overturn gay marriage, maybe, but that's very unlikely too
I don't even
because
think they're gonna. I just don't even really
it,
see that.
it's a political time bomb. If you do overturn it, there's
Yeah,
gonna be people on the street in Washington.
of course.
Yeah.
You know. Um. Now again, I think you have to, and on both sides, this is true. Do not conflate gay rights with gender ideology. Two
Hmm.
totally different things. They are lumped together for political reasons on both sides. They are separate things.
Yeah.
So again, that gets all entangled. But like, no, gay marriage is not going anywhere. It should not go anywhere. And the foundations of reproductive freedom should not go anywhere. However, that does not necessarily mean that you should be able to like have an abortion just at will for no reason in your 9th month. Like, there has to be, like, some things are outside the bounds of reason if there is not a really damn good reason to do something extreme. And
Yeah.
most people are probably going to think an abortion in the 9th month is extreme, unless like the
That's very
mother's
extreme.
life is in crazy danger, or there's just, I think of course you should leave a space for ridiculously horrible, dire circumstances. Of course you should.
Hmm.
But like, I think the Democrats try to paint it as any restriction is, oh my God, they're going to take away abortion, when it's like, you motherfuckers are the one that didn't even codify it into law. So
Yes,
it's complete
that's
rejection.
yes, that's to me that was the huge part. They go they had Supreme yeah, Roe versus Wade was enacted in 1970 something. Let's say 72. I don't know exact I don't remember that exact date, but I'm pretty sure it is. So they had Jimmy Carter. He could have codified it in Congress. He didn't. Then it was 12 years of Republicans. That's Bill Clinton. He had 8 years of Bill Clinton. They didn't do it. Then they had 8 years of Obama. He didn't do it, and now they have Joe Biden, and Joe Biden could have done it because I think it's so, and he didn't do it again because it was like they couldn't use it as a political football. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, if you it would give us money and we'll keep fighting for Roe versus Wade. Oh, they got overturned. And it's not my fault. That's Supreme Court. Blame them. Even though we had 40, 50 years to try to codify the law, we didn't do it.
No, and then they intentionally didn't do it. I mean, wasn't it Obama who had said, like, I forget if it was his first or second
Hmm.
term, that it was going to be the first thing he did,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. And then he turned around and said, "Oh, it's not a priority right now." Even
Not a
though they had
priority.
a super majority in in the Senate and the House, they had the House. They could have done it. It's like, "Oh yeah, it's not a priority right now. So leave me alone. Don't ask me about that again." Even though he promised that was the first thing he would do when he entered office. But he didn't do it. Of course not.
But then,
Uh,
please, let's talk about how the Republicans are a threat to abortion. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's just sort of a
Hmm.
crazy making thing.
Yeah, because they are in their mind is like easy political thing. I have a question here from somebody in the chat. Maybe you want to answer it, maybe not. They want to know what state you're from.
Oh, I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay, so you're in the Northeast.
I'm in a blue state.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's just absurd. It's like, oh, come on, give us, just do that. Like, nope. we won't do it, even though we had 50 years to do it. But yeah, now as soon as Supreme Court overturns it, everybody's in the streets. All the liberals are pissed off, and Biden is like, "Oh, now give us money so we can, we can reinstate Roe versus Wade." See,
And
I think. Oh, go
when
ahead.
they wait like 10 seconds before those fundraising
Uh
emails
huh. What's
went
funny
out.
is, yeah, I supported Bernie in 2016, and Bernie, of course, gave my email to the Democratic Party. So what
Yeah,
did he
oh,
do? Yeah,
same.
as soon as that happened, I got an email like an hour later, give us money because we can now we're gonna fight to reinstate Roe versus Wade, either due to Supreme Court or with a law. You should have done that 50 years ago, but whatever. It's just ridiculous. It's like, fuck you. I'm not giving you a dime.
No,
Actually, last time I gave money to a politician was 2016 with Bernie.
it was
Even
yep,
2020, I was
me
like,
too.
no. I was like, no. I mean, I don't. Bernie is like, no. And on top of that, he didn't really fight in 2020. He was like, after COVID, he was like, yeah, my good friend Joe and Joe Biden, vote for Joe Biden. Even instantly, it was after as soon as COVID came around, they did like one or two more primaries, and then he dropped out right after that. I'm like, you didn't even fight. At least in 2016, he went essentially all the way to the convention, and then he dropped
Yeah,
out. Then, of course,
but he owes so many people $27 multiple times over. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
because I didn't give a lot, but it was enough until it was around $100, but it was a lot for me,
My
and
oh, same. Yep.
mhm. And I
Mine's
was like,
probably like 100 spread out. I used to
uh-huh,
would watch the debates and I was like, oh, he's killing it. $5. I was
uh-huh.
killing
Yeah, we were. I was at least so. That was the last time I was really like hopeful in politics. Is like he was. That was really like the last chance in 2016. If after that, I was like, nope. Mm-mm. I mean, after Bernie dropped out and endorsed Hillary Clinton, even though he knew damn well what she represented, and everything that she did as Secretary of State, but nope. I have to endorse her because he's a Democrat. I'm a Democrat now, so yeah, it was. I was completely like I was done at that point. I was like, even though I kind of like, oh yeah, I support Bernie. I put Bernie 2020 in my profile in my bio, but it was like I didn't care at that point.
No,
Mhm.
no. See, and I mean, I was still more hope. Like I campaigned for him in 2020.
Mhm.
I was like, all right, we'll do this again. I was in it, and no, I mean, I don't know. I think for a lot of people, maybe he was part of their like red pilling or like whatever the kids say, but just
Uh-huh.
kind of um making you sort of dejected and like, oh, okay, now I fully see this for what it is. And it just let me also see it in the years that followed, like just so much of the just like falseness of the left. And I say that as someone who was such a devout leftist. And
I was too.
I honestly, and I don't call myself a conservative. I don't call myself right wing, but at the same time, I will say that nothing has pushed me to the right like the left. They did it. They 100% did it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like I don't consider myself right or left. I mean, as
Oh,
my member, as Reef Freeland says in INN, there's something. What did he say? I mean, he has labels are bad. Stay independent. I can't believe I forgot that. It's my favorite saying, one of my favorite quotes of his. But then I screwed it up and like, oh yeah, now I remember. But yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, stay independent. I mean, it's like I don't have labels myself. I'm not going to label myself ever again.
no, I don't either. And they've become these labels have become incredibly useless. They're sort of just like self-soothing at this point. I kind of refer to them as like political pronouns because it's like it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't. And then I just wanted, because we've kind of talked about this, but I wanted to go further into this. Is why you tweeted this out. I think it was a few days ago. The left uses victimhood and oppression as their cause and identity to make their sociopathy exempt from being called to account under all foundational standards of morality.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, that
Ouch.
was brutal. I'm like, oh shit. I mean, yeah, I mean, when you sent that out, I was like, "Oh yeah, it's interesting," and I need to at least ask her to come on and stuff. So I'm not sure it was that tweet exactly or someone else that something that was similar, but yeah, I mean, I was like, "Oh, that's true." I mean, it's like the leftists they love to be victims. They always like it's the victim mentality. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's our fault. It's somebody else's fault why we're losing, or somebody else's fault why we lost the election. Like in 2016, who do they blame? The left and Democrats. Russia. We had 4 years of Russiagate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 I think that I mean that the tweet in a certain sense speaks for itself, but I can
hmm
elaborate a little bit because I feel
Yeah.
like, you know, the left as they have come to be, this I have to say, it's like this is one of those things where obviously we have to talk in generalities. So I would tell people, like, plug in your own not alls, plug in your own not me. Like, I
Yeah.
get, of course, there's exceptions. I'm speaking broadly, intentionally. Um, but I think the left as it is, as a movement, I'll put that in quotes, um, is very, it's like victimization is its highest currency,
hmm
either for as themselves or for what they are fighting for. And I think that what they do, because we've really seen, in a certain sense, the radical left. I'll say the social justice left, the woke left,
Yeah. That
whatever
left.
word you want, the
Uh-huh.
identitarian left. Um, you know, I think that what they do is they sort of put this overlay of virtue
hmm
across any marginalized or oppressed identity or group. And once you do that, that is all shielded from accountability, either from the people in that group. No action that they do can ever be criticized because,
Yeah.
well, they're oppressed and they're a victim and they're marginalized. And you put this overlay of virtue on them. They're always in self defense. And then for the people who are like the allies, like, I'm an ally, well, you're fighting for these things, so therefore you get the overlay of virtue too. It doesn't matter how hateful you are, it doesn't matter
Yep.
how racist you are, it doesn't matter how slanderous you are, it doesn't matter how intimidating you are. You're either a victim or you're fighting for victims, so therefore you can act in any manner and it is free of scrutiny.
Yep.
And that's really a form of some kind of social authoritarianism. There's nothing, I don't see that as left. Like, yeah, you announce you're fighting for all these just causes, but like the left doesn't care about class anymore. It's all
No.
about the color of your skin, who you sleep with, your ethnic makeup, like all of these things. Class is not in this conversation. In fact, if you talk too much about class, you're called a right wing. You're slandered. Where it's like, if you look at like something like the old school labor movement of
Yeah.
maybe, the 40s or something, those people would all be denounced by today's left.
Yeah.
There's no labor, it's all about these very, like, your oppression points. And it's manufactured victimhood. It's luxury beliefs. I forget who coined that term, but I think it's brilliant. I did not make it up. I would love to take credit for it. I can't. Um, but it's all the luxury beliefs. It's all, microaggressions, words or violence, and when you tell a society en masse that words are violence, well, what happens then is that actual violence can then be presented as self-defense. This is a very dangerous road to go down.
Yeah.
And I just think that's really the state of the left, is this unhinged, histrionic, just emotional dysregulation. I don't take any joy in saying that. I this breaks my heart. I think this is
Hmm.
we are going down a really bad path, but that's what I see.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's well said. I mean, I've had my issues especially after 2020. It's like, yeah, I can't be a left winger anymore. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right, or I'm not saying this. I'm not saying anything like that. But yeah, when I see all you tweet like that, I was like, yeah, that's well said. I mean, even your explanation now was like, yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And I mean, that's it. Yeah, it's well said. Um, did you see Elon Musk tell advertisers to go fuck
I
themselves?
did. I did. Mhm.
Because they're like, he's also suing Media Matters because
Yep.
they started this whole thing over. Oh well, yeah, I mean, you see your your ads end up with tweets, controversial tweets. Please, because they hate Elon Musk. It's obvious. So that's why they do. That's why they did that. They manipulated the algorithm. At least that's what Elon Musk claims when he's suing Media Matters. But
And I think a lot of those companies too, like, because we have to remember that all those companies have to worry about like their ESG scores, right?
Mhm.
Their kindness score, their diversity score, they're all of these things that are essentially ridiculous. They're just virtue signaling.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think that these companies, one, in order to satisfy even that type of thing, have to kind of almost do this performance of like, we denounce Twitter because fill in the moral reason. They've been denouncing Elon and Twitter since he bought it, so just fill in whatever the
yeah,
current thing is, like it doesn't matter. I think they have to be seen doing that to some extent.
yeah.
um
Mm.
but them even doing that, one, that is advertisement on Twitter. Of course it is. Like,
Yeah.
what a big
It-
performative show. But I thought him telling them go fuck yourself was fantastic. That was great. That
yeah.
was, what I had said on Twitter was something to the effect of, you know, okay, like I get it. We're supposed to we hate the billionaires. We're supposed to hate the billionaires. Billionaires shouldn't exist. Which essentially is kind of like an empty sort of, it's like, okay, well, how are you even going to get, I mean, it just feels like a kind of a self-soothing kind of thing. But fine, okay, I get it. We're supposed to think billionaire is bad. However, that sentiment is more relatable and more honest and real than anything we have heard from a progressive, for the people politician that I can even recall. Go
Yeah.
fuck yourself. Fantastic. I can't be mad about that. You
Yeah,
know?
the billionaire, they hate that. Billionaire shouldn't exist. I think Bernie had a plan to tax him out of existence or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how realistic that would have been. I mean, yeah, I mean, you pass tax increases, but ultimately there's credits and there's loopholes, and you can find your way around that. So it's almost impossible to tax billionaires out of existence. It'd be
Right.
like 100 years ago. Let's tax millionaires out of existence. It's like that's not in a capitalistic system. That's not really a thing. Like let's tax certain people or certain financial situations out of existence. Nope, not a
And
thing.
if you had sort of across the board, like a more, I don't really want to use the word equitable because I feel like that's been really tarnished, but just a more, um let's just say a more fair system for economic growth, or for, being prosperous, however that means, regardless of who you are. And you knew that you actually didn't have to worry about where your next meal was coming from, or if you were going to be able to pay your rent, and the odds of you being able to own a house were actually quite reasonable, and all of that. If we had all of that in the world, you really gonna fucking care that much about the existence of a billionaire? Probably not. Do you know what I
No.
mean? You're
Yeah.
not gonna care nearly as much. So I think it's more of like almost like a mantra, like billionaires shouldn't exist. Yeah, because we don't have a fair system right now economically. And I don't have an answer to that. I'm not saying I do, but I think that like it's sort of an empty, again, a virtue signal, just sort of the moral masturbatory position of like, well, billionaires
Yeah.
exist. But obviously Elon does exist. He's the richest man in the world. And I think he said something, a sentiment that is relatable to so many people. And this
Mhm.
idea that all billionaires think the same, they all want the same thing, they all have, that's false too. There is no group that's a monolith. And the reason that Elon gets a lot of hate, and even Trump, right, gets a lot of hate,
Mhm.
is because they do clash with other elites. There's
Yeah, they
intra-elite
do.
conflicts, and we see them play out. And they might, of course, they have some overlapping interests, but not all. And even the objectives to get there are different. And so you can't be like, oh, well, just billionaires bad. They all what? No, they don't all anything. So I
No.
can't really sit here and say like, oh, I have a huge problem with Elon Musk. I don't know the man, but
I don't either.
I like that he said that. I like a lot of the things he's done on Twitter. Not everything by a long shot. But that's just how it goes. But I do think Twitter is probably the closest thing we have to an actual public square, right? I couldn't name you another social media platform.
Well,
And unfortunately, now the public square is digitized. I'm not
yeah,
saying
it's
that's good, but it is. And so if it's gonna be, we damn well better be able to speak our mind as much as possible,
yeah,
which to me means anything short of direct threat or incite to violence is,
yeah,
you don't have a right to an existence that's free of being offended.
yeah, I mean, it's like now Facebook is banning you for any reason.
Yeah,
Threads, again, that's nonsense. I think
I've
it's on
never been on Threads. Have you
neither
been
have
on
I.
Threads?
No, but it's like a Facebook owned Twitter, basically. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, they'll ban you there for anything too. There's other social media companies that are owned. I think there's one. I forget what it is right now, but it's like a Democratic Party like owned social media thing. I
Oh,
forget what
that
it
sounds
is, but
awful.
yeah, I mean they ban anybody for any, even if you slightly disagree with like yeah, it's awful. I forget what it's called right now, but yeah, I mean, I'm probably, but it's one more thing we need to spend a few minutes on before I wrap up.
Mhm.
Baseball. I mean, as you know, I'm a Yankees
Oh my,
fan, and
I
and
told you I almost wore my Red Sox shirt. And then you're sitting there with a Yankee cup.
I know you're a Red Sox fan, and we didn't do well this season, neither team.
We
So
had a race to the bottom. We
yeah,
had a race to the bottom of the AL East. Oh my
uh-huh.
God.
I was like, who's gonna finish last? The Yankees or the Red Sox? We were like neck and neck, and then the Red Sox had the awful September, and they managed
Yeah,
to finish
it was
last. But
fitting. It was like,
uh,
the thing about the Sox for me is that part of their whole thing was always like the lovable losers. And then, of course, we had
mhm,
2004, which was orgasmic and amazing. And then it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, then we
for
had our
sure.
7 and 11. And then it's like, I need them to really have their wins spread out because that's just a part of their kind of identity that I'm like, no, you need to finish last, please. Go ahead.
We were. I was like, who's gonna finish last, Yankees or Red Sox? And I thought that I honestly I wanted the Yankees to do it. That way they would fire Aaron Boone, which it turns out they never will. It seems like because he's always brought back no matter what. I was like, oh
Yeah,
come
you
on.
have to tell me what, because I see you say that a lot. Like, what I know as a Red Sox fan why I don't like Aaron Boone. I'm sure you know why I don't like Aaron
Yeah,
Boone. But
yeah.
why do you not like him as a manager?
It, it's so there's many different it's like he's at least the perception is he's a puppet of Brian Cashman, and he makes terrible decisions. I'm like, come on, man. I mean, he removes pitchers too early or removes them too late. He has no feel for the game, even though his father is a baseball manager. His brother was a major leaguer. I mean, his baseball. His grandfather managed to. I'm like, how do you have no feel for the game? It's just
Oh,
beyond me.
really?
And it's like, and the Yankees have ever since he took over, Yankees gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And now this season they missed the playoffs, and they were 82 and 80. I'm like, come on, just finish under 500 or finish last. Maybe they have no choice. Neither happened, but I'm like, and then
but
they
look,
go
but
ahead,
like
yeah.
on the other side, I mean, we've got the Sox. Like they didn't keep Xander. They let Evaldi go. I think it was 2 seasons ago. They let Vasquez go, who's a great catcher. I mean,
Traded Mookie Betts.
oh, and like yeah, exactly. Like it's just
That's a big one to me.
huge, and I feel like so many of them. When I look at the Dodgers, I'm like, it's like the West Coast Red Sox. Like all like I mean,
Yeah.
they're managed by Dave Roberts and they've got all these. I'm like, yeah, it's just the extension of the Sox team over there. But I don't know. Do you have any hope for the off season? Like if the Yanks would get
They're
anyone?
connected to Yamamoto, who's a Japanese pitcher, who's like he's ERA champion 3 straight years. He's fantastic in Japan. I'm like, again, will he translate to the majors? We'll see if they get him. But or they're also now connected to Juan Soto. The Padres trying to trade him,
Are
and
the
I'm like,
are the Yankees in the hunt for Otani? Because the Sox were talking about it. They won't do it. There's no way they're going to do it. But they were saying, "Oh, we're thinking about it."
I've read stories the Yankees are not going to pursue Otani either because it's going to cost 40 to 50 million a year, and I don't see the Yankees going and playing in those waters, especially when they re-signed Judge last offseason. They spent 300 million on Garrett Cole. They have Stanton on the book. Stanton is awful. Giancarlo Stanton is just awful. I'm like,
I thought Stanton was good.
he was
Oh,
in
Did
2017.
he fall off? Did he have a bad
Yeah.
season? He had a
He's
bad
had a
season.
he's had a bad few seasons. I mean, he's been injured. So, but yeah, I mean, he's not the 2017 MVP where he had 59 home runs. He's not that anymore. He'll never will be that probably. But his contract's still in the books until like 28. He has 4 more years left, and I'm like, yeah,
But
they're not gonna.
it's like us with Chris Sale, who has had so many injuries.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
that's supposed to be like the Sox ace, like ironclad pitcher, and when he was healthy, is like, yeah, he was, but he's barely played like the last 4 years.
Here's the thing about Sale. When I saw him, he's so skinny, and I'm like, yeah,
He's
he's a good
a
pitcher
tiny little
now.
boy.
He's so skinny, and it's like he's not gonna last. Yeah, I mean he's good now, and he won a championship with the Red Sox, and without him, they don't win that last championship. But he's so skinny. Eventually, he's gonna fall apart. His body's gonna break down on him, and unfortunately, that's what's happened. And I feel bad for the guy. He's a great pitcher, but
I
and
feel like there's some athletes, and I'll say this because I danced for a lot of my life, so I'm too familiar with injuries. But like once you're injured, first of all, it's very easy to get injured again, and
yeah.
not all injuries rehab the same. And even if you rehab successfully, there's no guarantee you're ever going to play the same. You would ever dance the same. It just changes the body.
Yeah, Sale. I mean, unfortunately, it's his
He's so
career.
fragile. He's so fragile.
Yeah, and I suspected that would happen, especially how small he is. I mean, how skinny he is. Not small. He's a tall, lanky guy, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Like Randy Johnson, he's like a 6'11" pitcher, but he lasted 20 plus years. I mean, he pitched a perfect game into his 40s. So I'm like, yeah, he's a rare. Usually most guys that tall don't last. But yeah, I mean, I have hope for the Yankees offseason? It's like this every offseason. They're connected to the biggest free agent or the biggest trade target, and they're gonna get everybody, and then they get nobody. They get like an average pitcher, maybe a center, maybe an outfielder or two, some mediocre player, and like, oh, all our guys will come back from injury next season, so it'll be fine. We'll win 100 games again and make the playoffs, and maybe get to the World Series, maybe not. So that's their attitude now. It's not like George Steinbrenner's around. They're gonna sign everybody, and field an all-star team. That's
Well,
gonna happen.
Steinbrenner, right. I mean, Steinbrenner would just like essentially throw money at the problem. He's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
just go get the best part. Like, and that's why he got accused of like, oh, you just buy championships and all of that. But no, he would just throw money at the problem.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of Yankee fans my age are used to that. It's, oh yeah, just sign Yamamoto, let's trade for Soto, and then extend him long term, and then let's do this, let's trade for this guy and get this pitcher, and we'll be one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, we will be, but that's not going to happen because Hal is not built like that. I mean, Cashman, has lost his mind. I mean, I'm sure you saw his rant, cussing out the media recently.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he needs to be gone. I thought I would have fired him 15 years ago, but that's a whole nother thing for me. I mean, I prefer Alex Cora. I think he's a fantastic manager. You mean
Cora, yeah, it can
he
be
gets the
hard
best
for
out of his
me.
players? I think at least look at the outside
He
looking in.
he often does, and my blind spot kind of with baseball is like, if I like the person, I have a hard time being objective about them. So because I like Cora, I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, he's a great manager. But so for you to say it's great because you don't have that kind of emotional thing. With me, I end up getting attached to very mediocre players and then am shocked when they're traded. I'm like, wait, but how could they do this? Like, well, he wasn't like, but he was awesome and I loved him. So I'm glad to hear you say you like Cora as a manager because yes, I do too.
Yeah, I mean, I hate Boone, but yeah, I mean, I could keep talking about baseball all day, but do
I
have to
know
wrap
you
up
have
soon.
to go. This was a really good
Yeah.
conversation. Thank you.
Oh
And to
yeah, it was great. I agree too. Maybe we
your
can do it again soon.
yes, I would come back anytime if your viewers would have me. And I
Yeah.
thank everybody for listening. And yeah, thank you for inviting me on. I think your show is great, and I'm happy
Oh,
that you're
thank you.
a voice out there doing
Thank
that.
you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I would love. I mean, we'll set up another date some point. But
Okay,
yeah, I would love to have you back on. I'm sure the audience do too. Even though some of them didn't agree with everything you said, but that's the whole point of the show. Conversation.
I don't get
Mm,
upset about that
Yeah,
disagreement. It's
neither
completely
do I. I mean,
fine.
I've had some interesting debates when I don't have guests from my audience. But yeah, I mean, I want to thank you for coming on. I hope you enjoyed your time here with me.
I did.
No, thank you. I'm glad.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'll see you. We'll see you guys next week.
Yep,
Maybe a
and
different guest, maybe not.
I'll
But
see you on Twitter.
okay, yeah, I'll definitely see you on Twitter. And I hope everybody has a great weekend, a great night, and I'll see you next week.
Good night.